This is Cannaramic, and we're bringing you cannabis like you've never seen it before.
Today we are so excited because we have Roz McCarthy, who is the founder and CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, with us today. Hello, Roz.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you are doing such great work in this space. You've been around the block a long, long time. You're doing so many things. So let's just talk about really quickly. I mean, you are the CEO, founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, which is a non-for-profit organization representing cannabis and the hemp industry. You also are CEO and president of the Genesis Group, which is a consulting firm, and you're managing partner of Plant Life, which is a full spectrum cannabis nutrient company. How do you have time to do all of this?
Let me tell you something. I wear many hats, and my priority hat is M for MM. I actually, prior to starting M for MM, I was a consultant. And so I was in the healthcare industry, writing grants, working with nonprofits. I sit on the board for the California Black Chamber of Commerce. So I was doing all these things. And then it's just this cannabis space drew me in, and I started working this. So it's a balance. And I try to work to achieve a work-life balance, to be honest with you. But it's the best feeling in the world that I'm doing something that's impacting other people and is making such a big difference.
Yeah, you travel a lot. I mean, you've been in the last week. I know that a couple of times you were here and then you were there, and I'm like, well, I hope you be stable for this particular interview. So you're moving around a lot. Now, how did you actually get into this space? You told me a little bit about your story of how you kind of emerged into this space.
Absolutely. So one, you would think, you go, man, you've been around for a long time, but I haven't. It has been going on 3 years now. I started this journey May 10th, 2016. So that's telling you how young the industry is.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur by spirit, by heart. I have the background of working with nonprofit organizations and being a consultant. And I'm based in Florida, and Florida was getting ready to legalize, and it was a ballot. It was an amendment on the ballot. And I started looking and doing research basically about the medicine and also about the business. Like, so what's the business opportunity? What are Black folks doing in the space? And I think what really pushed me was the fact that my mom passed away from breast cancer in 2005. Mm-hmm. And my son has sickle cell. So I'm a sickle cell mom. My son at the time was only 17 years old. And I just remember all the times we were in and out of the hospital, and knowing that he's transitioning from being a youth into an adult, I want to make sure that my son had the opportunity to be able to, if he needed this plant, not to be labeled as lazy, don't want to work, a weed head, the negative connotation that this plant has placed on our community, specifically the Black community over the years. I didn't want that put on my son, because my son is like, he's the light. He is so awesome. He's just a great kid.
Okay,
and so it just made me, it pushed me into action. And I started looking and researching online, looking to see if there were, minority organizations in this industry. And I'll be honest with you, only one I found was Minority Cannabis Business Association. And they were doing fantastic things. I wanted to pivot a little bit from what they were doing to some things that were really close to my heart. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to start this organization. And so I started playing around with names. And you know what? I call a spade a spade. I'm looking at the future. So future is when federal legalization is on us, and we have funding that comes to the NIH and funding that comes to SAMHSA for minority research about the plant. I know I wrote grants for those people before. So I wanted to create an organization. If they say, well, why should you deserve a grant to do the research and to do the work? Well, my organization says Minorities for Medical Marijuana. This is what we do. There's no type of figuring it out. There's no type of like, what exactly are you guys about?
Right.
It's there. So
very, very clear. Well, you know what I love is that you saw the future of what was happening in Florida at the time. It was on the ballot, and you actually took action. And I think that, we look at what's happening in New York and New Jersey, and the fact that this is going to roll out all across the country at some point in time. What do you encourage people to do when they see these things happening? Because I feel like people are not aware, and they're not, looking at the future.
Absolutely. It's scary. It's like the .com, the real estate industry, when we had the real estate boom. These are areas of the industry that you see that are growing exponentially. And this cannabis industry is not going to be for everyone. Like the .com wasn't for everyone. But what we should look at is, if you are a consumer and you're a business person and you're an entrepreneur and you have a talent or you want to tap into a brand new industry, this is an industry that may be for you. And so for me, I wasn't a consumer, so I didn't consume. I didn't have a lot of knowledge base, but I threw myself into learning. And I'm big on learning and getting education. And once I started kind of like, we have no excuse. One of my chapter presidents in Michigan, Simone Kaysen, she goes, as long as you got Google and God, you got everything. That's all you need.
Absolutely. So people need to engage to see what opportunities are available to them. Now, you actually go around the country and you host seminars and workshops with people to help the community to get engaged. You know, why is it so important for the underserved communities, minority communities to be educated and get involved in the cannabis space in some capacity, whether it be for health or for career or business?
Right. I think first and foremost for me is that this plant from a healthcare perspective creates an opportunity for our community to be able to have something that's natural, that relates to our endocannabinoid system in our body. I think from a healthcare perspective, we have to understand this. We have to learn the communal nature of the plant, the spirituality of people from our Rastafarians in Jamaica, why they utilize this plant, why was it looked at as not only a herb, but as a medicine. I think we would be surprised that the reason why people think we have such increased use or that we use only is not because it's us only using. There are some really medical and clinical connectivity for use. And so if we don't do that and look at this as a new option for medical care, that's where it starts. Right. We as a people, we have our healthcare disparities are atrocious. We have issues with access to a physician. We utilize the ER as an access point for healthcare. We can't afford our medicine. We are the last to get tested for certain diseases that we need to know about in order to have a longer livelihood and a lifespan. And so now we have a plant that we've been disproportionately sent to jail about. Mm-hmm. Now you have this whole new flood of, hey, it's good, it's great. 30 years ago, it was the black people. It was the reefer madness. It was the drug that was causing black men to go chase after white women. It was a bunch of bull. Mm-hmm. So if we see that this is now going to be a part of our community, a part of the not the black culture, but this is a plant that will be touching lives across the board.
That's right.
We cannot sit with our head in the sand and go, okay, well, it's not for me.
Right.
There's so many different variations of delivery system of this plant that I'm learning that I'm like, oh my gosh, that can make a difference. And I know personally, I have a bad back, I have a herniated disc, and a topical does wonders where I don't have to take opioids, I don't have to take Codone, Percocet, or any of that stuff. So we got to get the healthcare benefit first. And then once we get the healthcare benefit story and understand where it fits in our community, I think we also, and we can do it simultaneously, but we also talk about the social justice as well as the economic development opportunity.
Well, you know, I wanted to just really touch on the healthcare component. You know, just from my personal experience, there's so many people in our communities, like you said. I mean, the women in my church, you suffer from diabetes, lupus, heart disease, all types of illnesses. And actually, a young lady I spoke with a couple of weeks ago, I said, listen, do you know that you can get a medical, she has lupus, and I said, do you know you can get a medical marijuana card so that you can, get the benefits? And she said, oh, I don't mess with that. So right. We've got a lot of work to do. And I know that you just recently had a conference or a talk in a church talking to people about the importance of this plant.
No, it was actually, I was a part of it. And shout out to Women Grow and Gia Marone and Emmanuel Baptist Church for stepping out and stepping up and being a light to faith-based organizations to say it's okay to learn more about this plant from a business perspective, a healthcare perspective, from a social justice perspective. And so Gia invited me to come on. I was a moderator for 2 panels. And then I also did some fireside chats where people came in if they had a business idea. That's my specialty. I can help those people that are trying to figure out how to get into the industry from a business perspective, being able to help you figure out and kind of peel back the onion to see where's your entry point and how do you do it in the most cost-effective way. And so Emmanuel had 400 people, parishioners, community folks that came into that church, and they were looking for information and solutions. And so I think we have to be charged with, we know the issues, we know the disparity, we know social equity is the issue. Now, what's the solutions? What do we do to provide solutions for our community that are measurable and tangible? And if we do that, and if we really focus on that, I think we can move the ball down the field a lot more.
Right. There's definitely a lot of work to do there, and definitely shout out to Emmanuel Baptist Church for that.
Absolutely.
So you actually touched on one of your specialties being helping people to understand how they can pivot into the cannabis space, whether they are entrepreneurs with a new idea, whether they be a current company that is looking to add something to cannabis to their portfolio, or even regular people who are secretaries, and they're saying, I want to see what opportunities are available here. How is the cannabis space, different than the traditional, I guess, opportunities that are out there? Does it require any special kind of understanding?
Well, the big difference is it's in its infancy. And you got to think about this like a marathon. We are in a marathon, I would say nationally, because there's 33 states, 34 now states who have a medical program. There are 10 states who have an adult use program. So we still have a state by state overseeing of this program, of this plant and use of this plant. It's still federally illegal. Mm-hmm. And let's just keep it real about that. So your entry point into the industry is going to be, when you think about, do I want to get into the industry? Well, it's so wide open. People are creating spaces for themselves when there is no space. So let's say, for example, use your example as someone who is an executive assistant who does HR, who maybe, also does, administrative things. You can literally take all of your skill set that you've gathered over the last 10 or 15 years, package that up into a business that says Cannabis R Us or Cannabis Admin Plus. Mm-hmm. And you can literally go and market yourself to these companies to say, listen, instead of having someone do it in-house, if you're looking for someone that can oversee for compliance, or if you need someone, HR support, that's what we do. That's what I do.
Okay, and so it's because there's so many things that are developing now. Companies are not fully established, so they need a lot of support.
They're growing cannabis. Think about when this started back in California. The need of it was the fact that you had individuals who were suffering from cancer and from HIV/AIDS. They found the plant made a difference. It helped with weight loss. It helped with creating an appetite. It helped with taking care of the anxiety. And when individuals were feeling, with the medical issues they were having going on, they would use this plant. And then you had a body of people, activists in California who said, we want to legalize. And then from there, it just kind of spread from the West Coast and then coming over to the East Coast. So all I'm saying is that you have a brand new industry of people that were not looking at this from a business perspective. They were looking at it from a healthcare perspective. Uh-huh. They were saying, how can we gain access to this plant to help people live longer, to have a better quality of life?
Right.
So if you have that piece there, and they're now cultivating, they're now processing, they're making this, but they're not business people. If you're a business person, if you're someone that has a skill set, you need to look at, how do I take this skill set and just translate it to work for the cannabis industry?
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the hottest areas that people can pivot into with low or no budget? Like you said, I'm an executive assistant. I'm looking for a new opportunity. I'm sick of working at this job. I don't have a budget. What is the hottest areas that they could pivot into?
Well, you got to have some budget, because you got to start somewhere.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Entrepreneurship is the hardest job. It's the most demanding thing that you'll ever do in your life, but it can be the most rewarding because you're doing it for you. You have to have a mindset, and not everyone is an entrepreneur. And let's just keep it real. Not everyone has the fortitude, the insight, the tenacity, and also the strength to go through the ups and downs of not having a check on a weekly basis to support their families. So I would be remiss if I got on here and said, oh, it's the best thing, it's panacea, come do it. No, it's hard. It's so super hard. If you're touching plant or not touching plant, it's a hard task. But all I want to do is challenge folks that if you are interested, if you have been thinking, man, I want to start my business. Man, I'm a lover of the plant. Man, I see the trajectory of this industry going from here to here. Then where's my fit? And that's when you have to, this is how I did it. I started Googling to find out what type of businesses that were out there currently doing what I think I could do. So you have to tap into your passion. My passion was business consulting, business development, and that was also in the healthcare industry. I have a healthcare experience and business consulting. So then I said, and then I had this nonprofit experience with chambers and membership-driven organizations.
So what you're saying is you assessed all of your assets. What do you have currently?
My assets. Like what am I good at? Like, you walk in a room, and if someone's like, interview her, and her, I know I'll get the job when it comes to sales, marketing, business development. That's what I'm good at.
So people need to, first of all, kind of run an assessment of what it is that you do well.
What are you good at?
Okay.
What's your strength? If you're on social media right now and you just on your personal name have 50,000 followers, how do you channel that skill set of getting 50,000 followers and doing whatever you do on social media? How do you channel that into a business? Mm-hmm. And how do you maybe channel that into the cannabis industry? Right. And that's where you start. Once you figure out what you're good at, you start researching to see what's out there and what's been done in the area that you're good at. Mm-hmm. So if you're an attorney, then you want to look for a cannabis attorney. If you're an accountant, you want to look at a cannabis accountant. Mm-hmm. Go to people's websites, see what the service they deliver.
So they're actually cannabis attorneys and cannabis accountants. Like, these are different from regular accountants and attorneys. They have a specific skill set.
They have a specific skill set. So a cannabis attorney is someone that has that not only is very versed regarding the cannabis industry about the plant itself and the healthcare benefit, but they know the framework of how this bill, of how you can run a program in their respective state. So if you're in Georgia just signed a medical marijuana bill. If you're an attorney in Georgia and you want to get into the industry, then you go and verse yourself knee deep in cannabis, the plant, the healthcare options and what it brings, the framework of the bill that just got passed by the legislators. You want to find out what other cannabis attorneys do and who is your ideal client? Why would they need you?
And you mentioned, because it's state by state, all of these different, you said that there's 10 states now that have medical marijuana, I believe, because it's not federal.
There's 34 that have a medical program.
Okay.
10 have an adult use program.
Okay, 10 have adult use.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that because it's not the same everywhere, being versed in your specific area is something that you can do and make that into a business, be versed and be able to help people in your specific state.
In your specific area. You can be an attorney and have your client, but can say, I want to read the tea leaves and I want to pick up clients that are in the cannabis industry. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose your clients on this side, but you may add another piece to what you do. That means you're going to have to become versed in it. You have to become a subject matter expert for your industry. I wasn't always like this. I ain't know crap. I swear, nothing. But there's books. You need to understand what's CBD, what's the endocannabinoid system, what's a terpene, what's a terpene pound. So if someone is talking the lingo or talking the language, you got to know that piece of it all, and then you translate your skill set to the industry, and then you start creating a business.
Right.
And your business is your name of your business, your logo, and those are things that honestly, if you got $500 and a great idea, you can get your business up and going tomorrow.
Awesome. So you actually mentioned something about having a current law firm. You're already in legal, and instead of another person may say, well, I just want to transfer careers altogether. You can actually just add another component to another layer you're currently doing, so it becomes another piece of your portfolio.
Absolutely, it's always a high risk, high reward. But it's a low entry barrier into the industry. You're not giving up on your other clients, but you are bringing in a new skill set,
stream. Yeah,
a new revenue stream, and you now just have to become a subject matter expert. Our board chair, his wife is Tamika Range, and she is her law firm. She was doing contracts and she was doing compliance things just in general. Mm-hmm. And they started a cannabis company called Art 420. Now she's an attorney, so they have this cannabis company called Art 420, which is very creative. It's all about art and cannabis. But then she started picking up, and people want to know, well, do you pick up cannabis clients? And so not only was she picking up people that may have been arrested unlawfully for marijuana in the state of Florida, but she's picking up people that want to go after a license. She's picking up people that want to be able to do a branding IP partnership with, I got an idea, they have a license, bring it together.
Mm-hmm.
So she's being able, she's picking up, you know, compliance, contracting. Someone has a contract they need, and it's in the cannabis industry, but she had to become versed in the industry and understand all the different components of the industry in order to make it fit for her as an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Tamika is so awesome that she ended up being the first instructor at Florida A&M University who did a cannabis course for the law school on the social justices of cannabis and where all that stuff intersects. So she not only went from having clients, but now she's an instructor, and now she has that piece to add to her portfolio.
Well, you know what? I think one of the things you said is, I think you had said this, is oftentimes because this industry is so young,
yes,
often if you know something about cannabis, you're usually the expert in the room, right? So people start to call on you for everything, and that provides opportunities for you to continue to diversify.
Absolutely. And we cannot just consume. Stanley Atkins is our Georgia chapter president. And Stanley, his background was he was a paramedic. He had his own business. He ended up creating his own brand called the Cannaramic. He was,
wow.
and he's someone that was utilizing CBD right now. But when Georgia is able, when he's able to get a card, if his medical conditions meet the qualifications, not only can you have from a medical standpoint say, hey, I believe in this, but also from a business standpoint. And he talks about that he tells his story from a medical of, you know, how he was dealing with his medical issues. And, you know, he's very transparent and very open. And that's the dialogue. You got to find your story, find your, like, know how to go. When did you fall in love with basketball? It's like, when did you fall in love with cannabis?
Mm-hmm.
And what's your story? And where's that fit? And then how do you take that and create your own little like brand that represents you?
Right.
And let me tell you something, these companies out here, there are proportionally more white companies that are in business in the cannabis industry. It's honestly telling you, but they are open for discussion to do business together.
Mm-hmm.
They're very keenly aware that we get a raw deal in this industry right now, that we've gotten a raw deal in regards to being arrested, to being incarcerated for the plant. And so if you call up a CEO and if you have your things together and you have a great pitch, you have a really strong opportunity to be able to get somewhere and to grow your business and get your foot in the door. They're willing. Go ahead.
So you're saying know your story, have a story, you know, like your background that you talked about, how you came into the space because of your son and because of your mother's diagnosis, because you saw Florida was about to legalize. So people kind of have to have an authentic story, because isn't that what keeps you going as an entrepreneur? You got to have that fire.
Yeah, it's what keeps you going. It's also, the cannabis industry is very community oriented. So we kind of tend to, everyone has a story, or there's a moment where you knew that what you're doing was the right thing for you. And it's a beautiful thing. And I never thought, let me tell you something, Felicia, never in a million years did I think at this point in my life, I'll be 50 this year. So I'm telling the story, I'll be 50.
You look awesome.
I never thought in a million years that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. And it's scary. I had to come out of the cannabis closet, because at first I was like, okay, I'm kind of doing this. You really have to release what you're doing and your passion of what you want to follow, and you have to put it out there. Mm-hmm. And when I finally came out of the cannabis closet and I just was very open and transparent about what I was doing, it was one, very liberating, very freeing, but it allowed my brain to expand out and for me not to feel constrained, and for me to be able to figure out, how do I take this idea, this thing that was in my spirit, like it was spirit driven. Mm-hmm. I felt my mom's spirit say, you know what, you get off your ass and you either do this or leave it alone. Mm-hmm. And I just literally got up off the sofa, went to my computer, started Googled different things. That's when I found MCBA, and there was, I think it was Cannabis Cultural Association was another one. And I'm like, I want that space, because the advocacy part, I felt like what I want to bring to the table was different, and that I would be able to get in and then figure out how do I then circle back around the business side. Mm-hmm. So right now, because of the advocacy, I got 3 different businesses that now are outside of all the advocacy work that I do.
Right. There's so much to do in this space that you can just keep, expanding your repertoire. I love what you said about coming out of the cannabis closet. I think what you're saying is people need to talk about and communicate with and join with other people who are doing the same thing. I just became a member of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I got my card. I didn't get my card, but I don't know if there's a card, but I'm a member now.
Yep, you got a certificate, the whole 9 yards. We call it Find Your Tribe.
Right.
Find your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something. Everyone's listening to me. You will never ever hear me say, well, you got to be with M for MM. I don't care if you go, if it's normal, if it's like, I'm not picking out any groups or what have you. What I'm saying to you guys is, you got to find your tribe, find a group, find people that you commune with that are that are thinking like you are, that are progressive, that are going to give you the support that you need. Because right now it's still a scary space to be in, mm-hmm. and it's a new space. And so when we go to these conferences, it's so great. Listen, let me tell you something. We'll have a table and we'll have all of our information out. And when Black folks come by our table, they're like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Mm-hmm. Because they want to feel included, and they see that, wow, you're about minority participation, and it makes them feel like, wow, we're about the same thing. Mm-hmm. So there's several different advocacy groups out there. There are some, I guess you would say, like, podcast folks that do podcasts, things of that nature. But from the advocacy groups and the folks and the associations you can join, you have several throughout the country. Find one that is a great fit for you, that you believe in their mission. Join them. It's worth the money. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm a little biased. I want you to join M for MM. But yes, MCBA, Cannabis and Cultural Association, California Minority Alliance. There's a Diversity Alliance in Colorado. There's these organizations that are doing phenomenal things. Hood Incubator, Supernova. I mean, you name it. They're doing fantastic work.
Well, I love that, what you're saying about the community, because what I have found is in that where other industries are very cutthroat and you feel like you're coming in there and, people are really not trying to share information. They're not trying to help you. This industry, I guess, because it's so new and it really doesn't have the sharks in it yet.
Well, get some sharks, though. There are some sharks, but it's not as many sharks.
Right.
Do not, always keep your head on a swivel, but it is not, I just feel like it is, there is a lot of folks that you wouldn't think they're in your corner, that are in your corner. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to join, you can join multiple organizations. There's a Doctors for Care that's just for doctors. Dr. Nathan, bless his, he's an awesome man. There's so many organizations out there that may not look like us, but they want our time, they want our talent, they want our passion, and they also want to do business with us. Mm-hmm. And so we have to kind of stretch ourselves, but you got to find your tribe and figure out where your fit is. And then from there, that's your pot of people to sell your product to. Mm-hmm. So with M for MM, we utilize a platform that allows our members to talk to one another. So if you come on board and you're like, hey, Cannaramic is going to be having this blah, 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 we having a launch, you come and blast that to the people so that you now have a group of folks that just by attrition, the fact they're part of M for MM, they're interested in what you may have to offer. Mm-hmm. So that's why being with people that are like-minded, that are a support for you is so critical.
Yeah, you mentioned it being scary. And I know that just generally being an entrepreneur is scary. What's particularly scary about the cannabis space?
The scary part is because it's such a young, a young industry, a budding industry. The fact that you put a lot of resources and time into it and not understanding what's going to happen when legalization happens at a federal level. Mm-hmm. We don't know what the FDA is going to do. We don't know what the Attorney General will do. We don't know what will change at a federal level, because federal law will supersede some of the state law. And so you may go and say, I'm going to start my business, and come to find out 3 years from now, the rationale and the reason why you started your business now changes, because now it's legally federally. And so the paradigm and the climate of the business has changed. Mm-hmm. So, but with that being said, it's also exciting because right now there's no federal interference. So if you live in Georgia, you now got a brand new industry that's about to pop open. If you're in Missouri, oh my gosh, can I just tell you about Missouri?
Yes.
Missouri is, their Amendment 2 passed in November. They have one of the best bills that I've seen in the industry that really is open for individuals to get in there, for businesses that are in Missouri to do business in Missouri. Let me tell you something. They are going to have their application process open in June. They're going to, the way they do their licenses, There are 5 million people in Missouri. They're going to give out 61 cultivation licenses, 86 manufacturing and processing licenses, and 192 dispensary licenses. They're doing it based upon your congressional district. So every state has a congressional district that the federal guideline, the federal government puts together for you. And normally the districts are based upon your population and, you know, just several different borders or whatever it is, you know. So long story short, when your congressman goes to office, they go to office based upon the congressional district. Mm-hmm. Well, Missouri, in their bill, they said that every district, and there's 8 in Missouri, every district is going to have 24 licensed dispensaries. Wow. So if you're in St. Louis, in St. Louis County, which has a 58% African American population, and it's in one, and it is a congressional district by itself, you almost have a social equity program without calling it a social equity program. Right. Because now all you got to do is compete. Right. You just got to compete. You just got to know your stuff. You can't come in here halfway. You can't come in here, well, I want to have a dispensary, and not know how to maneuver through how to have a dispensary. But if you do the homework, if you get the resources together, you can compete and be able to service your community, to be able to provide the medicine, and to stay where you are and not worry about East Missouri trying to come into West Missouri, or West Missouri trying to come into East Missouri, because now you don't have the competition because you got 24 dispensaries in 8 different congressional districts. Right. What that also means is that if you're a multi-state operator and you're looking at, do I want to go into Missouri? Well, shit, why would you want to go into Missouri? Excuse my language, I'm sorry. But why would you want to go into Missouri when you have all of this competition? Right. So you're going to be like, do I want to come into the area, or do I want to let the local people really service the state of Missouri? So a multi-state operator, for people who don't understand, those are dispensaries that are in multiple states. Right. So MSO is multi-state operator. So it is a MedMen, it's a GTI, it's a Trulieve, it's a Cresco Labs. These are multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar cap market publicly traded businesses who are now taking, and they're doing business, and I can't sweat the hustle. Like I'm not mad, but Missouri, by the use of creating a infrastructure, the folks who did the law for Missouri and who got the amendment on the ballot, they intentionally want to make sure that it was for Missouri by Missouri. Mm-hmm. And so we as an organization took it upon ourselves to create a boot camp that starts this Saturday. And the boot camp is for minority-owned businesses to get them ready to apply for their license. Basically, everything they need to know for the application process to be able to compete and get their license. Because we believe that if we can compete, we are some creative people. We are so smart and so just, the creativity, the hustle, it blows me away. We just need to understand the lay of the land, understand if you're reviewing my application, what are you looking for? And so that's why people are coming to our boot camp. It's going to be at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and it's going to be all day for 4 weeks, every Saturday, starting April 13th, April 20th, April 27th, and May 4th. May 4th, we got investors coming in, and the investors are going to make up with people who are going after a license to give them the funding or to talk about how they can fund their project. Yeah, that's a big piece, right? The funding component, because we're talking about people pivoting with low or no budget, but there are certain things like dispensaries that you need a budget for. And, I understand that because the federal legalization piece hasn't been done. Right. You can't borrow money. You cannot get involved in this, right? Right. So you can't go to a bank for a line of credit for this. Nope, you can't get a line of credit. You can't go to the SBA for a loan. You can get angel investors and cannabis investors. And you can get people who are kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, I want to get in. I don't want to do it, but I got some money to give you. So again, going back to Missouri, $6,000 for a dispensary application. In Florida, to get an application for a vertical business license is $60,000. Mm. So the more that we have states who really do create an open marketplace where it's not so tight, it's almost like, you ever watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Yeah. Love it. So what was it? I got the golden ticket. And that's what's been happening in these different states. They say, I got 6 licenses for a population of 5 million people. So what happens? The little person at the bottom has no kind of way to compete with a multi-state operator who says, I want that golden ticket. So I'm Charlie, and everybody else is Farouk and all the other folks that get all the money. And so therefore they come into the industry, they come into the state, they get experience, they get market share. And then 3 years later, people want to go, well, now we'll let some more people come in. Well, you lose opportunity that way. And so a part of M4MM and what I do from a passion, I'm very passionate about this. We have to write good policy. I love social equity, but you know what? I will take an open marketplace that allows me to compete against the next person anytime versus, okay, give me one, that's social equity, or give me 2 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Florida, it was a Black farmers carve out, which never happened. So now you still don't have any Black ownership in the cannabis industry in Florida. Mm-hmm. So it's such a it's a rough place to be in. That's why policy, writing good policy, working with legislators at the state level is so critical. As much as working with federal legislators is critical. Working in Georgia, working in Virginia, working in Maryland with the state legislators, the people that run the state. Mm-hmm. You gotta show them that we have to have an open market to be competitive, to compete, and be able to.
When you say open market, the key piece, one of the key pieces you're talking about is making the entryway financially reasonable. Right, $1,000 is relatively reasonable.
Reasonable. Make the market so that you have. Look at the population and make the number of licenses you give out that it is parallel to the population of people that reside there. Mm-hmm. If you have this whole Willy Wonka chocolate factory mentality of you got 5 golden tickets, you're going to, just by attrition, you're going to price people out of the marketplace. Not only price them out, but price also from a experience standpoint. You know, if I'm a GTI and I got all this experience and you're giving away 5 tickets, heck yeah, I'm going to go after one of those 5.
Right.
You know, I'm funded well. I got experience. I have, you know, and at the end of the day, the people who are reviewing these applications, they want to make sure that whoever comes into the state knows what they're doing, and that is going to have great medicine for the constituents that live in that state. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so they're not, I think they're concerned about social equity to a degree in diversity and inclusion, but they want people to come in that know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And if you only have 5 slots, you're going to get the best of the best in that 5. And it just really pushes us out of the marketplace. Right. And that's why I love Missouri. I mean, is it a perfect bill? No. But, you know, their medical marijuana card is $25. They have a 6-plant personal use. They have, instead of having to get a physician's recommendation, all you need to do is have a qualifying medical condition, which is 2 different things.
Right. So I don't have to talk about that. What are the 2 differences? Yeah.
Yep. So if you qualify and if you got to get a recommendation, I qualify if sickle cell is one of the medical conditions and I can show you I have sickle cell, I don't have to go back. I don't have to go to my doctor, then go back to the recommended physician that does marijuana. All I got to go is to the marijuana physician and say, here's my paperwork that says I have sickle cell. It meets one of the qualifying medical conditions. He sits and he puts it in the system. I go and pay my $25. I get a card. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Think about our community and individuals who want to participate or who are interested. You have barriers. You have to pay to get seen by a physician from a primary standpoint. You have to then get a recommending physician to then say you qualify or that I'm gonna recommend you for the card. That's money. Then you got to pay for the card. That's money, and then you got to get the medicine.
And the medicine is not covered by insurance, correct?
It's not covered by insurance.
Right.
So do you do the illegal thing you've been doing, or do you go into into the legal market? And that's where we have the conversations with legislators to explain to them that when you open up the marketplace, there's 2 different types of business models. You can have a vertical business, meaning you do everything from seed to sale, a vertical license. Or you can have a horizontal business model, which means you don't have to be the master of everything. If you want to cultivate, you only cultivate. You get a license for cultivation. If you want to have a dispensary and that's all you want to do, then you get your license to have a dispensary. And I think that's a better model. I think it makes it more fair and equitable. And I think it allows us to service our communities that we live in and not make it so that, you have folks that come into your state, but they're not coming into your community. And right. It's sad.
Right. I think one of the key things you were saying just now is overall, if you're in the space as a business person or as somebody who looks to work in the space, you got to be flexible, yes. Right? Because like you're saying, there's so much volatility right now.
It is. There's 2 different pathways. You have those individuals who say, I want to touch plant, meaning I want to either cultivate, I want to make edibles and process, and I want to be a manufacturer of, I may want to do pre-rolls, or I want to do vape pens, or whatever the case may be. You may say, I want to get the oil and I want to have a branded product that is a vape pen, and then I want to sell it to dispensaries. That's one area. And then you have dispensaries that say, I just want to retail. I want you to come into my store. I want to help you. I want to teach you. I want you to buy your product, and I want you to keep coming back to me. Mm-hmm. That's touching plant. There's a whole nother ecosystem, another area of the ecosystem, which is the ancillary businesses. And that's where the accountants, that's where your social media, that's where me as a consultant. I am a cannabis business consultant. I do diversity planning and training. It's awesome.
Right.
Because there's a diversity issue in cannabis.
Right.
So you imagine if you have someone that does leadership training, do it for cannabis. Right. If you have someone that does HR training, do it for cannabis. If you have someone that does, that's a technology wizard that does Salesforce.com, that's a Salesforce administrator, and you are techie and you've been doing it for other companies. Well, Salesforce is a way. It's just a way to keep track of all of all your patients and your consumers, and people use that platform. So now you teach them how to use it, and now you do it for the cannabis companies.
Right.
It's a beautiful place, the ancillary side of the businesses.
Right. So there's lots of room in there. You don't have to touch the plant. You can essentially take what you've currently done, do a lot of research to find out what it is, and it's easy to become educated because the industry is pretty much in its infancy. So it's not like you're going to be that far behind, right?
Exactly.
And then, find your passion, figure out what's going to make you go, and, be prepared for volatility because the marketplace is very volatile.
And stay prayerful. Stay prayerful.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
Stay prayerful. You are going to hit the ups and downs of the industry. It's okay. It's not just the industry, it's just business 101. Mm-hmm. Having your own business the first 3 years, don't expect to make money. Mm-hmm. But put yourself out there. And now you don't have to be in the cannabis closet. If you're going to start a business in cannabis, come out and let people know this is what my path is and this is what I'm going to do. Find your tribe. Find someone that thinks like you, or find a group or organization, whatever the case may be, and get connected. And then, and let it go from there. Felicia, you've done a great job. You have a brand. You have this awesome platform you've created. We're so brilliant as people. Mm-hmm. And so now, how do you take that and you monetize it? Think about whatever you're going to do. How do you monetize it? Is it going to be fee for service? Meaning I give a service, you pay me a fee. Is it going to be advertising? Is it going to be exchange of services? I give you this service, you give me this service back, but your service helps me to grow my business. Mm-hmm. So we got to figure out, how do you monetize your idea, your brand, your business, and from there, you're off to the races.
I tell you, there is a lot of it to do here. It's very, very exciting. I'm excited for you. You need to replicate yourself like 75 times.
I know, I need a clone. I do. I need a clone.
It's too much to do. But
I got a beautiful team. We have some awesome people from coast to coast, from California all the way up to Connecticut and back down to Florida and Louisiana. I spread myself super, super thin, but I'm able to do this because I have a support of team members that they're just awesome and they love what they're doing. They have their own brands. So we don't try to make it the M for MM show. I'm like, we're not the, hey, I'm Suge Knight, I want to be all in the video and all. No, we want to come in and be the support as an organization and help you grow your brand. So as a member of M for MM, however, we can help you grow your brand. That's our win, because now we're not doing this in vain. It wasn't about this organization. It was about getting our folks connected so that you don't get left out.
And that's, once you've done that, you've accomplished what you started off to do.
And I'm good. And I give myself 5 years to keep it going. And then a sister gonna retire.
Oh, Lord, that's too early. We're not gonna let that happen. Roz, I so appreciate all the value you have shared with people. I believe that you have helped them to see cannabis like they've never seen it before. And we are excited about where you're going. People can find your organization at M4MMUnited.org right there in the back of you. And looking forward to joining on with your tribe and getting involved.
Thank you, my love. I appreciate you so much. And best of luck in everything that you're doing, and whatever we can do to support you and help you, I'm here for you.